His
All
feminist.
right. Hello, everyone. Good
Because you worked with
afternoon. It's a pleasure to greet you all on behalf of the Academy for Political Science.
Development.
Based on science. This third in a row panel titled Political Representation of Women in Croatia, which is part of a project Women in the Lead Part 2, which has been gratefully funded and supported by U.S. State Department, U.S. Embassy in Croatia, to which we are greatly appreciate very much. On that note, today's panel is going to be moderated by Her Excellency Ms. Natalia Reyes. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us and for supporting us. And she will be paneling three well-known faces to our academy, our alumni. Andrea Čović-Vidović, who is Deputy Head of the European Commission in Croatia. Marija Lugarić, a newly re-elected MP in the Croatian Parliament, and also Head of the Parliamentary Committee for Gender Equality, and of course our very own Ivana Novoselec, who is an Executive Director. Thank you all four very much, and Madam Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and let's give the panelists a round of applause, please. So the title, Political Representation of Women in Croatia. Such an important topic in a very important time to talk about women and the importance of women at really every table of power, including politics. I think that we in the United States, we're still a work in progress as well. We don't claim to be the perfect union. We claim to be a work in progress. And that means including parity with women and women at every table of power, politics being one of them. But you had your first president who was a woman. We in the United States have not had that yet. And so, to Croatia for really catapulting a woman to a high level as a president. So this is a very dear topic to me. I think together we will change the paradigm, ensuring that women are everywhere at every level of power, at the local, at the state, and at the government level here in Croatia. And it's going to take us all, men included. So thank you to the men in the room. You deserve a round of applause because this topic is not women specific, it is all of us specific. And as I was sharing, it's going to take all of us and women supporting women in particular. People say to me, well, you've gotten to such high levels, how did you do it? I did it because women supported me to get where I am today. So it is my honor to be here. It's my honor to share the floor with this esteemed panel. And these are women that have broken glass ceilings. These are women that have been the first and have been the youngest and have pushed themselves beyond what society might want to impose on them. So I just want to thank you for being here today. So let's get started. How about that? Yeah. So, I'm here all night if you guys need me here all night, because this is obviously a topic that I care deeply about. But let's start with Ivana. What prompted you to start this Academy for Political Development and focus particularly on women? I know that this is a third roundtable. Mm-hmm. You've done a roundtable on women in the legal world, women in civil society, and now women in politics. But what was the impetus of this idea?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for the question. Well, first of all, it was Andrea who prompted me, because when I have taken the role of the executive director in the academy, Andrea was already managing one of the first Women in the Lead project. That was her idea, which was dealing with the role of mentoring, and especially women supporting women, as well as men supporting women in climbing up the corporate ladder, as well as the ladder in the public offices. And then clearly it's part of our mission to support gender equality in the Academy for Political Development. And it was very easy to conclude that we should have a bigger project that deals with this particular issue, because, as you have said, we have a lot to achieve as a society. In that aspect, I can just say, in that respect, that we might not be the poorest in some of the indexes measuring the gender equality in Europe, but we can by no means be proud by the fact that we still have below 40% of women in our parliament, that we have, Maria will probably know figures better than me, about 20% women in power in executive and representative functions on the local level. that women are basically still taking less part in the political life and even in the public life in general in Croatia. What we wanted to achieve through this project in particular is to try, and I'm very glad that I think even today's audience and participation demonstrates that we can try and push for the gender equality issues as multi-partisan issues. So to cross the political party borders, as well as intersectoral cooperation in terms of bringing together women from business, from the civil society, from academia, but more than anything else to push for gender equality as a multi-partisan issue in our parliament. And therefore we work together to establish 3 working groups that are multi-partisan and intersectoral. And we will in the future bring our MPs and some of the other women and men participating in the project to the States to see how the bipartisan issues work in the US Congress and possibly in one of the state congresses, because we believe that there is a lot that we can still learn from that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned barriers to entry, really, for women in politics. What do you think are the top 3 barriers of entry in the political realm here in Croatia?
Well, we discussed that a lot. And I would say, personally, one is the social and cultural symbolic role, as well as social role of women in Croatian society. So when you look at those figures in the European Index of Gender Equality, you can tell that in many other areas we are not so much different from the EU average. But in terms of time spent in managing the household and time available for public services or free time even available to women, Croatia is at the very bottom of the European Union. So this is a problem, I guess, everywhere. But in Croatia, obviously, women are homemakers at the same time as being employed, because we have a very high rate of employment of women. So our women mainly work and still keep the house, keep the children, and take care of they're even in almost 80% of cases, they are primary carers for elderly and diseased members of the family. So that's one part of the problem. Women don't have time to deal with politics. The second one is obviously what we probably have all over the world, that we do have, because the situation is such that most of the people in power are still men. There is this element of boys' club, of women finding it harder to climb up the ladder within the political parties once they decide to join them. We have spoken to some of our politicians who said that, especially in rural environments, women, they don't even haven't have time to spend evenings with their male colleagues discussing politics and party politics and so on. And they're sometimes not even invited for them having dinners and drinkings and so on. So it's part of the social thread that we have. And I think there is even this, the third would be the cultural moment in which we still have this idea that a strong leader is a man. I think it's a kind of a symbolic element in Croatia. It's changing, of course. We did have a lady president. We have women in very important positions, but obviously there is still sort of a paternalistic paradigm that works in our minds a lot.
Well, you set it up perfectly for our esteemed member of parliament here, Maria, who you became a member of parliament in 2000, yes. The youngest. Yes. I mean, that's pretty significant. So how did you break that glass ceiling?
25 years or 24 years ago, for me was much more easier because I was 25 years younger. But if you see the parties, political parties, as incubators for political elites, it's very easy for the party. We have election system with party lists. to put young women, because then in one person you have satisfied two quotas. You have young person and the women at the same time. So it's, instead of taking two places for men, you take only one. So for, I need to be very honest to myself. So it's kind of easier for younger women than to older women to become a member of parliament, or at least to get to the party list. Because you satisfy two quotas.
Satisfy both
two quotas
young and
in
women.
one person. So you're not taking two seats, two chairs, only one. So I would maybe come back to what Ivana was saying. I would, in a way, little disagree what she have said about the obstacles for entering the political arena. So I think the most important parts are political parties, who in our electoral systems are extremely powerful in creating party lists, and those are the social structures who are enabling you to become the member of parliament. I don't think that the thesis that we don't have enough women in politics, in political parties, it's not simply the truth. We had elections 2 days ago on Sunday. If you will see on television, watching the night, waiting for the results of the party, the rooms were full of women who took the Sunday night. So it's Sunday night. It's not even workday night. It's a weekend night to spend the time with the male colleagues and the other colleagues. So women, we have women in political parties. We have women who are interested in politics. We have women who, in a way, manage to combat all of these obstacles Ivana very good described and defined. But somehow we have mostly men who are putting, or in the principle, or in general, or in the mostly part, are creating the party lists. Now, if you want, we can debate how we can manage that within the parties, which I think is most important at the moment. I think for having the greater political representation of women in Croatian politics at the moment.
I'm interested in figuring out why you said, I want to be a politician. Why did you say, you know what, I'm going to run to be a member of parliament?
Ooh, that was never my idea. I never planned to become a professional politician.
But you are.
My dream, yeah, I am.
Is it bad to be a professional politician?
Yeah, I am. So,
is it bad to be a professional
No, it's very great. I'm very proud. And
okay,
whoever,
that's good.
people from the academy know me well, and I always present myself as a professional politician. And I think it's a very noble and a very distinguished job to do. It's nothing bad in doing that. But my dream was to be a teacher, so I never planned to be in politics, and somehow I'm a professional politician. But in the second part of the 90s, we had a special situation here in Croatia, which was not, I don't want to go there, but whoever lived here in the 1995, 6, 7 or so on, when I decided to enter the politics, Croatia basically was a democratic state. It was not the same now as it was 25 or 30 years ago. So I joined the youth of the party. I wanted to make a change, so that was that. And somehow I came to the party list number 13 out of 14, so it was not easy. I was almost the last one. But somehow it goes then. But I wanted to make a change. That was the idea.
That's very noble. Thank you for making a change, and thank you for raising your hand and saying, you know, I want to be a member of parliament. And I do think it's a noble profession to be a politician, because you're a public servant and you're serving your constituency so well. So thank you. Andrea, so you're a Fulbright alumni.
I am.
And so,
guilty as charged.
Exactly. So you believe in mentorship programs, and you've really invested your time and energy in mentorship program. I know that you've applied for funding from the embassy, but tell me the importance of mentorship, especially for young women.
You know what, I think for me, the trigger was when I realized I had never had a true mentor. And then I met people who did, both men and women, and I realized, wow, this culture of ours, it's really lacking that aspect of, I mean, giving you the strength to go on, go take the next step, the next leap of faith in your career. And so since I love the APER, Academy for Political Development, so much, I try to, through this small grant, I try to, well, use is probably not the right word, but use it as a vessel to instigate this idea a little bit through our little community. And I'm really glad that the project lived on, the Women in the Lead project. So it was envisaged as a mentorship project. It was happening during Corona times. So the mentors from the US that we got here were unfortunately all online mentors. But I'm glad that I think it gained traction, the whole issue of equality, especially in this circle that is inclusive, that sees it as one of the values for which the APR stands for. So I'm still working and struggling in my professional life to be that mentor that I didn't have. So I've mentored so far more than directly, indirectly, more than 60 or 70 young people. Half of them, more or less, were women. And so many things that you've said, and I really gave me the shivers, including the fact that women should stick together. Men should be there for the women. Men should understand the importance of seeing women's rights as human rights. And I think what we need are allies more than anything. From mentorship, I came to realize that this concept of having an ally, especially in your professional life, is so important, especially if they're a man, not because they're a man, but just simply being a man, they're higher up in the ranks, our numbers show it. And then they can, kind of guide you and lead the way. It's a complex topic, but I think what I do professionally, so I'm a professional EU official,
Right.
have been for the past 11 years. So I work for the institutions, and I've always tried to push this topic more and more and more to the forefront, rather than just in March when we all speak about equality.
That's right.
And there was an event organized by the embassy, and you were leading it. It was a wonderful event, but it happened like it always does. It was the month where women speak about women. We need to find ways. I don't have the formula, but we need to find ways to make men see how this is important for our civilization, really. And I often use, I'm really broadening the topic now, but when there have been questions, why equality, why are you insisting? You can boil it down to money, to profit, if this is the audience you need to speak to. So I'm going further than just women in politics, women in business, women in executive positions, women choosing careers that are not traditionally meant or supposed to be for women, like the ICT sector. We are lacking people in Europe. We're going through a demographic transition that is drastic, and it's going to bite us really hard. And one of the solutions is to make women see that they can do anything they want, just like men. So I'm sorry I've opened so many things in my answer and probably not answer your original question.
No, I think this is all
But it's such
great.
a huge topic for me that it's
This is
hard
what it's all about.
It's hard to keep a structure. I
No,
apologize.
there's a lot that you said. So I want to pick up on two things. You said you never had a mentor. Is it ever too late to have a mentor?
I wouldn't say too late, but I'm not sure I need one anymore. So I could have, I'm not saying I would have done anything differently, just the concept that I think this society, let's broaden even more, is not very inclined to asking for help. We're not inclined towards being fragile professionally. We're not inclined towards, I'm speaking about men and women, admitting your mistakes, being human. We're a little bit like you're supposed to wake up one day when you're 18, choose your career and go straight to the top. And if you diverge a little bit, change your career, it's a bit different than what I lived in the States, for example. So a mentor can tell you, someone who's been through it, it's fine. It's fine to change who you are. It's fine to change what you like. It's fine to change your views, your business, your whatever, wife, husband. I don't know. We're a society that's very stuck in its ways. And this is part of not having this fluid channel between experience and youth. And it's broadening the topic again, but transgenerational. So there's little support, I find, somehow structurally. And there are people who could help you. They don't even know it could be their mission. It could be something they do in their free time, like mentor younger people, juniors, or So again, I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, I mean, I think you're bringing up all these important points. So, you know, I've been talking about this a lot, actually, all the things that you're mentioning, you know, the fact that we don't ask for help, the fact that we have to be perfect, the fact that if we are not perfect, we're not going to do it. The fact, I mean, these are demands that we put on ourselves, really. And so, especially in politics.
It means you're weak.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to be
and you can't show being weak, which I think is, I'm always asking for help. I would not be where I am if it wasn't for an army of people that helped me be where I am, including raising my children. So not only career-wise, but just, you know, personal. And so I think that we need to talk about it more and be okay saying, hey, I need some help. And I think that the more that we do it and model it, the more that others will feel comfortable doing it. And I think that you also picked up on what do I want to be when I grow up type of question. And I think you could be different things when you grow up. I don't think that we should ask our children, ask ourselves, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because guess what? For me personally, I've been in government. I've been in the private sector. I've been in the nonprofit world, and I've been an ambassador. So I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up because I'm constantly growing. And so it's very hard. Don't pigeonhole yourself in like, what am I going to be when I grow up? I'm going to be multiple things. I will have rebirths and continue evolving. So I think that we need to reimagine and rethink the way we talk to ourselves and model that behavior. So I know that you covered a lot of topics, but I think it's important to cover a lot of topics because it is a robust conversation. So thank you for bringing all those things up. So for the three of you, what can we do to break down those barriers for women so we can have more women, equal representation around the table of women at the highest levels of power in Croatia? I know, that's an easy question. I only ask easy questions.
So easy.
It's not so hard.
Not so hard. So why don't you start?
Okay.
Thank you for volunteering.
Then I'm thinking from which points I would like to start, but maybe I will start where I've been in the previous answer. I think we need to first of all to start within the parties, political parties. I'm happy, thankful, I don't know what else, being the member of Social Democratic Party of Croatia. We had a long tradition of strong women within the party who spent years of their political life fighting for what we now as a women from the Social Democratic Party enjoy within our party. We have within the party statutes and the party rules, we have the gender quota, saying we need to have at least 40% of each gender. So it's not 50%, it's at least 40% of each gender. In each and every party, in each and every body of the party, on party list, so on. I have here Sonja Kovac, she's a member of the main board of the party, which I chair, but she's also the deputy chairwoman of the women organization of the Party of European Socialists. So she will correct me if I will do something, if I will say something wrong. So we have party quotas for women. That's the first thing. Then we improved it a few years ago in the sense that not just having the party quotas, because that led that we have men on the first 5 places, and then we have the women on the bottom of the list. So that we introduced that we have we need to have parity. We call it ZIP system. So we need to have it like men, women, men, women, men, women. So to ensure that we have the same representation, or at least the same representation of men and women. If you see the party list, for example, for the European election, it was 100% true. Men, women, men, women. Mm-hmm. For the parliamentary elections we just had a month and a half ago, it was compromised, I think in 2 or 3 cases. Which 2? Only in 2 cases. But I must tell you, although we have within the Social Democratic Party, we have very strong rules about it. We had a very big fight as women from the SDP with our male counterparts to preserve that and to something which should be the rule, to really fight for it to be the practice. At some point, we even blackmailed. And don't ask me how. So we managed to do it because of the second important thing, which is the
We call it
solidarity.
negotiate, not blackmail. Negotiate.
Negotiation? No. I on purpose use the word blackmail because, you know, negotiation is a nice thing. What we needed to do was not so nice. But we managed to do it because of the solidarity we have as a women from the SDP. We all stood together and we make a very strong front. And we said, no, guys. Either it will be like this or it will not be. So that's the second point, the solidarity. And third, I'm the member of parliament, so I need to go there. I think we need to develop furthermore the legislation, which empowers women or enables the more representation of women. In Croatian constitution, gender equality is one of the core values. So, for my personal opinion, all of those who are not following the gender equality are not following the constitution. So, and we need to put it on that stance when we debate those things in the political arena. We had an election law saying that at least 40% of each gender needs to be on the party list. And if you don't follow it, you will pay the fine.
Right.
You will be fined.
People rather pay the fine, I hear.
Yes. And that's the ruling. That's okay. I will not politicize because I'm only one from the political party. I don't have the other parties here.
I'm an ambassador. I can't be political.
Yeah. No, it will not be fair of me to use this situation for me not saying good about another parties and they are not represented here to say their opinion. So I will be.
That's very fair of you.
Yeah, I will be try at least the most possible fair. But I remember when we were debating that law in 2015. We had the idea and the plan and the proposal to party lists who are not consistent in gender equality that will not be admitted by the Electoral Commission. It will not be valid. And the guys didn't allow us to put that in the election law. That was a proposal from my party, and they said, okay, you went. We had like dinners of the women MPs, and we went on the dinner night before. They said, okay, you drank too much wine on the dinner, and you have like you have
Crazy
proposals. But in the end, I think we will need to consider now, after a few electoral cycles, what to do, because it's not good if you want to achieve the gender equality for the parties to decide it's easier to pay the fine, rather not to follow the constitution. So that's one point. The another point, I think we need to develop more political solidarity with other parties. For me, I'm from the left party, center-left party. In the Možemo, who is also left party, they don't have that kind of the problems. But our colleagues from the right parties, they really have the problems. I really like to support them in a way, because for them, it's much more harder to achieve their visibility, their political power, their political space. Then we have it from SDP. I have party quotas, so for us, this kind of negotiations or blackmails or whatever is kind of easier. But they don't have it, and we need to develop more solidarity. And final point, people tend to ask me, why is this important? So we should have in politics the best people, in spite of the gender. So if you insist on the quotas, then you will maybe not have the best persons. You will have the persons in just because of the quotas. And that's the wrong debate, wrong arguments. Because I think we all need to deeply interiorize that democracy is democracy only if it's representative and if it's participative. If it's not, then it's not democracy. If we are not equal, nobody's equal. And that's something we need to furthermore develop even on a legislative part. I have statistics here of the political representation of women, and we have like 2% more women in each and every political terms. So in order to achieve minimum 40% of representation of women in parliament, we will need to wait until 2056. So, and I don't want to wait until 2056.
We don't. None of us want to wait. So, Ivana, so quotas are not sufficient, it seems. And what else can we be doing?
We are in the early stages of considering, and I would say I agree with Maria that working with political parties is one of the key elements. The second element that I see very important, but it's not going to give us quick fixes, and that's the educational system. I think we need to work with girls to empower them, to encourage them to take interest in politics, as well as to feel that they can make a change and that they are entitled to make their career through the party politics. In terms of what parties do, I know that some of them, as Maria said, have systems, some of them don't, and it is for sure more difficult for those who are on the right spectrum. In addition to quotas, what I was looking at as examples, most of our parties do have women organizations within the parties. I think it would be interesting to support those organizations and see what their agendas are and how we can support them. My impression is so far, but this is something that we need to look into deeper, is they're mainly considering some form of dealing with specific gender issues, gender roles, supporting women, issues of women as mothers and as homemakers, some of them. They are not so strong, my impression is, in empowering women within the parties. So this is
it depends on the party.
It depends on the party, of course. As I said, maybe even encouraging party conferences that are women conferences that deal with, that kind of promote the role of women in the parties. And the third element, so it's the educational system, the parties, perhaps the media as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be a form of regulation, but there can be incentives for media to present in a stronger way women in politics, to give them a special space and to raise the issues of gender equality in general more. This happens rarely. Yesterday I was looking at Croatian television, was it yesterday or the day before, about the European elections, and we had 5 men in the studio. Although there are women who were elected as... Yeah.
Just one thing about the media.
Yeah.
I challenge you. Tomorrow we will have the first day of the parliamentary session. I bet that media reports will be what some of the women MPs wear.
Yeah.
That will be one of the first topics. For most.
What are you wearing, Mari?
I don't know. So see, I'm not that type of the person. But we will have the Q&A with the Prime Minister, and I can bet the same amount of the same media space will be what some of the MPs wore, and the same amount of the space will be for the Q&A with the Prime Minister and the government. Right. And we cannot fight it. I cannot fight it. I don't know how to fight it. Sorry?
The devil wears Prada. So I think, Ivana, you brought up good issues. So, how do we break glass ceilings, and how do we help women get to tables of political power? Education system, party, and the media. The media plays a huge role. I agree with you. And I think that the way that we fight the media is by, leading with the issues that we always do. And calling it out. I think you calling it out, Maria, is the right thing. Call it out every time. Like, doesn't matter what I wear. It's what I'm saying and the policies that I'm pushing. And so it's important to call it out. But how do we bring men along? Because men are obviously the strongest allies that we can have, because they are at those positions of power, as you mentioned, and they are the ones that are able to make sure that, we have those seats at the table. They're the ones doing the slate for the parties. And they're the ones hiring and firing. But soon we will be hiring and firing as well. So tell me, how do we help men realize the power of women at the table and the power of their advocacy for women?
Yep. I mean, it will probably be a bit of an answer to your previous question. We regulate. So I'm here. I'm here.
I know.
We regulate. Yes. Thank you.
I know.
We need to combine all these things, but I'm speaking from the position of the European Commission.
Yes.
I'll be a bit personal in a minute, but we need to regulate. Of course, it's harder to regulate politics, but you can lead by example. So this last commission, almost outgoing, had an equal number of men and women in the College of Commissioners. So it was a half-half commission. It was led by a woman. Our ranks, so the managerial posts in the commission are 50-50. So within our system, we are trying to lead by example. It's hard to regulate that part, but we regulated the private arena. Can I mention directives here? Is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Are you sure? I mean, I know
There's
it's late,
no issues that you don't have. You
Okay.
can. You can.
So there, I will. Sorry. I'll do three. I'll do three. So there are three in this commission during this commission's mandate. So the Women on Boards Directive, then the Work-Life Balance Directive from the European level, and then you have the Directive on Pay Transparency. So we are regulating the private sector as much as we can, because the calculation is, if we don't do it, it will take 3 generations to even it out. And the thing is, I am not so sure that it's a strategic thing by men. It is just the pool of people eligible for managerial posts. For example, if we speak about women in executive positions, it's simpler to choose a man. And when we speak about quotas, I will not go into politics, but when we speak about quotas in the private arena, you cannot give precedence to a woman because she's a woman, but you are obliged to give her precedence if she's an equally good candidate, as good as the male candidate, just to compensate for the historic disbalance. So we regulate, that's my answer to you. And we hope that member states regulate through their systems when we speak about politicians' quotas. Can I be a bit personal now?
Yes, of course.
We need to fight like every breathing moment. That's what I try to do. I hope I don't do it too aggressively, but my little circle of my everyday life, I am consciously aware of the fact that I need to help younger women. I think that I sit in these panels so much, and it's such a difference to be sitting in a panel with women who have had a certain professional and life experience to what you get when you're sitting in a panel with young women. And I was recently one of 5. The others were much younger than I, and they were all very enthusiastic, but they were in a different life phase. They were in their mid to late 20s. Things are still looking rosy, but when we fall off the grid, when we get a sick parent at home. If you don't have kids, there's someone you kind of take care of. And Ivan has mentioned the statistic for Croatia. We are the primary caregivers. You have kids, you're off for a while. So the system does not compensate for this. We have a huge percentage of highly educated women. I think in Croatia they're leading. They're like 40, right. What is it, 48%?
Yes.
It does not reflect when you get older. There's obstacles that you cannot just jump over unless the system allows you to. So the work-life balance is for me, the arena in which we need to struggle. And we need to be brave, and we need to speak to our male counterparts. We need to speak to our partners. We need to speak to mothers who are raising little boys to make them aware that we need to change this society. We have all the conditions to do it, but each and every one of us, and then the male allies, have to be consciously living this change, this transition towards equality that we're still struggling. We wouldn't have these directives if we didn't need them. That's a signal of the problem that we have as a society in Europe, and I believe in the States the numbers are even
lower. In the
lower.
United States, I used to run an organization that recruited, trained and invested in women candidates at every level of government, at the local, state, and federal. And we were very intentional about that. So you've mentioned, Maria, obviously political parties. Beyond political parties, what other key institutions should we recruit to help get women at the political tables of power here in Croatia?
Media, already mentioned. I think that's the most important, because as a women from the politics, we have support from the civil organization, from non-governmental organization. We have support from academia, so that's, we are kind of good. But the real question was the last question, how to put men on the board, because obviously we kind of depend on them. So in addition to all of what has been said already, I think we need to mainstreaming the policies in a way to men to see the political profits out of involving the women. They will understand that language. They need to see that it's worthwhile. It will gain more votes. It will get more seats. That kind of things. It's very hard, because if you want to put women on the board, some of the men who already sits in some political chair needs to get out of that chair, and that's the game of the power we are really facing. The education system. I'm a profession, by my profession, I'm a teacher, so they always say that for many things the role, importance in the role of the education system, but I must tell you, it's not almighty. The children now learn more about from the other environment other than the schools. So I'm not sure that it's a kind of easy answer to put it in education system. It's very easy to put to curricula, to mainstream the gender policies within the curricula, but it's not almighty, because those children are living in their home with their families. They see this traditional role. They see the obstacles their mothers, grandmothers have. They see who is a carer in the family. So we need to do it, of course, but I'm not sure that it can deliver as much as we expect. The political parties, especially men within the political parties. And maybe some more legislation, you know, they're from the European Commission regulate. I'm the member of parliament, so for me it's the legislation. We have in our electoral, I will say now something publicly maybe to think about it and to throw it in a political arena. We now have in election law that as citizens, as voters, we vote on the party lists, and we have one preferential vote. Okay? I ask all of you, so if we have in the law that we need to have two preferential votes, and even go even more radical, to have two votes to vote one man and one woman from the party list, would it be helpful? So because mostly people on the party list are circling the first person on the list, 30%. And then the most popular persons, which are usually men, not in 100%, but mostly. So if you introduce in the legislation to have two preferential votes, I think it maybe would help at least some of the women. Maybe not, but maybe we can start thinking about it, or at least to start debate about it. The second thing is to furthermore improve the legislation, which says that, okay, you need to have gender equality or gender balanced party lists, and now you are fine. So if it's not gender equality met at the party list, it will not be accepted. You cannot run for the elections. In a way, it's radical, but on the other hand, we cannot just close our eyes and say, okay, we have it in the rules, and we will not obey it, and we will pay the fine. Not good enough.
Can I just interrupt you?
Yes.
I just wanted to say, I mean, why is it so it's acceptable for us to have minorities represented in the parliament and have guaranteed places in the parliament? It's being debated right now, but it's an outrage to have this idea of having a guaranteed number of women in the parliament. I'm just throwing.
No, it's just for the sake of the debate. Yeah. You know, because Ivana, it's a game of the power.
Yeah, I know.
So it's easy, you know, to put national minorities. If this is the wrong example, but okay, you have reserved seats. There's a little bit reserved. They're like kind of aquarium. They're there. They're not taking anybody's man position, you know.
Yeah, they have a separate little corner. Yeah,
I don't want to see that for women. We need to mainstream.
I mean, if
all
I
of those
could
things.
jump into the discussion, as you were posing your question, I saw where you were getting towards, but then my instinct was, goodness, we should have surpassed the need to have them in a fishbowl or whatever you called it, aquarium. We didn't. Clearly, the number shows we did. But I mean, the women in the
Yes, of course.
But I'm being personal. This is not the commission speaking. The women in the parties are the ones. I mean, there's always the change within is the one that stays. So
That's right.
being brave within your organization, me within mine, you within yours, and your fellow female colleagues speaking up. You know, there's women in the party, they're not on the lists and need to speak up. So I would say speaking up.
Yeah.
And if I could return to your question about men, how do we get men on board? I mean, can I dare all the men in the room to do this little thing that I learned about? Champion a woman when she's not in the room. So if, you know, find a woman you see has good value, good qualities, and speak about her nicely, not while she's there, but when she's not present. So I think that this is a very, very tiny little piece that you can do to add to the puzzle of becoming the male ally. But we need to start small, especially when we're speaking to.
I like that call to action.
Yeah.
So did you hear that, fellow men?
Please do that for a woman you appreciate, and do that for her. And you know, these stories, they spread like rumors, only good rumors, and then you're helping her a little bit.
That's right.
But you're preaching the
conversion.
I know.
You know that
Okay,
most of them are feminists.
Sorry,
so-
no, okay, you're right.
But
You
you
know
know,
them
but
personally.
that's another thing that I want to bring up.
Yeah.
So the word feminist now is taboo for some reason. So this is not this. But before I open it up to you guys, but you know, I don't know when the word feminist became a 4-letter word. But do you see that here too? In like, you know, feminism is no longer. I mean, I don't know what that's about. Can we just go quickly around? What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Why can't we need to take back the word
Semantics
feminism.
is very important for everything, every bit and piece of your life. I think most people do not have a clear definition of what it is in mind when they're shaming the word. So I think the word has become stigmatized, not necessarily the meaning of the word. Do we need to invent another word? I'm not sure we can do it, but I think my vision of the situation is that
I want to
people are
reclaim
feminists.
it. I mean,
People are more feminist than they would dare think they are when they mention the word feminist. But I mean, feminism is about, you know, deciding to stay for a period of time with your child at home when you're a man. So there's very many examples of people doing feminist things that they would not dare to call feminist because they are perhaps living in a more conservative circle. So there's this detachment between what the word means and the word itself. I don't have a solution, but I think that's the problem. I see more feminists than they would be willing to admit. I don't know my experience.
Let me tell you one thing from the parliamentary campaign we had just 2 months ago. For some of my colleagues, it was very popular to record the TikTok videos. And it was like some questions. What do you like more, Star Trek or Star Wars? And they said, Star Trek. And I don't see how it converts to the votes, but still. Some of that did it. And one of the colleagues in those TikTok videos had like, what is the most handsome politician for you? And he said Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. And they said, yeah. And they said, no, but Croatian. And he was like, and then he said name of one of my colleagues. And I saw that video, and I said to my, I will tell you later on. I will tell you later. I will tell you later on, and I will tell you why. And I saw that video, and I said to my colleague, I said, okay, what you did was not right, because you kind of objectify that women. She's very smart, she's very talkative, she's very argumented, she's a very good politician. And you kind of reduce her to her look, to her appearance. And then he told me that I'm vampire feminist.
Vampire feminist.
Not just a feminist, a vampire feminist. That's a first for me.
Isn't every feminist a vampire by that definition?
That's new terminology.
So that's why I'm not mentioning the names. It happened only 2 months ago. So very proudly standing here in front of you as a vampire feminist. But that's the part of the answer to your question. Why this word is so not good. Maybe Sonia will recall when I was elected as the chairwoman of the main board of the SDP, I stood in front of the board. It's 150 people in the room, and I said, okay, I'm very proudly standing here in front of you as a politician and a feminist, because I don't know which word of those two are. Which is worse? Yeah, which is worse. Being both is a vampire, probably. So, but the idea is to standing for your rights, to standing for you, to giving the space for other women somehow is not seeing being fair, or I sometimes think that we tend to go on a different part of the spectrum, saying to being too politically correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we need to go back and saying, okay, we are proud what we are. How do we look, what we do for our living, and to be, yes, I'm proud being the feminist. Although being seen vampire, whatever it is. But that's how most, or I don't know, at least some people who are now members of parliament see those kind of the debates. Yeah. And he's not the worst one.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Vampire feminist.
It's tough because it's, especially humor is difficult. If there's a lot of sexist jokes, and it's part of the culture. And if you are too cautious and too drastic about reacting to in each and one of them, then you get this backfiring of, like you're not allowing anybody to speak, you're a vampire, you're a feminist, and so on. And I think pragmatically, one should kind of make a good balance of, choose the battles so as not to kill the kind of natural type of conversation even, but still to make sure that when we're speaking about women politicians, we are speaking about talking about what they have to say and what they stand for. And, it's a very fine line. If we don't want to alienate a relatively conservative audience and a relatively conservative public, who I think still does believe deep inside that there should be gender equality, but is not maybe always aware of what it means.
Yeah, I think this is, if I can jump in again, I think I would be, please don't call me out now, but I'd rather have someone act as a feminist and not be called one than have someone who will declare themselves as feminist, but in practice do nothing of the kind.
Well, that's not a feminist. Yeah. I would not consider that a feminist person. But anyway, so thank you. I have a million other questions, but I'm going to turn it to the audience. And there's a little young girl right there, which I love that she's here because you are the future. The sky's the limit. Dream big and do great. Any questions from the audience? I guess I asked all the questions that you wanted to ask. Yes. Can you say your name, please?
I have a comment, in fact. Do you think that some latest developments like war in Europe, raising security issues, decrease this whole feminist thing? What I've been seeing is Prime Minister, even Croatian one, surrounded by men. All these security issues, again, are threatening feminist, let's say, thing. One thing. The other thing is, what Vladi mentioned, this is clickbait journalism, which stays always on surface and talks about, in terms of sexism. So do you think some modern things in Europe or some modern developments in Europe are threatening feminism? Because I think they really are. And my third question to all of you is, do you think in Croatia, in terms of institutional help, for example, we have an institution dealing with this issue. This is the Office for Gender Equality, where we have the same person for, I don't know, like 14 years, and not making any progress. So, someone?
Who wants to take it?
I can start. I can start by saying that I cannot comment on the third one because it's a member state thing. Your first one and your second one, for me, I mean, I don't know if the correlation exists. Security, men. I think the phenomenon of men being overwhelming the political arena does not necessarily have much to do with a political or the war context, and I don't think it's a male topic at all. I mean, there have been women. I mean, Croatia has had a woman that was heading the sector, so I don't think so. I don't think that it correlates, honestly. And I forgot the second one. Journalism. Yeah, and I think we need to. This is something that I wanted to react to when Ivana was speaking. It's a very fair point. How can we raise daughters to think they can do things when on TV they just see men talking about topics, any topic? Does it have to do with the fact that a man will rather go and expose themselves even if they're not the greatest of experts and speak in public, and women are more prone to being self-reflective? I don't know, but there's a thing that's called the register of speakers. I mean, in Brussels, when you don't have an inspiration, a lot of journalists don't do it because they want to have a show with men only, but women don't respond. They don't have a list of women they could call. So I think this would help a lot if we had such a thing in Croatia as well. Again, not me to call it out, but a list of women for a topic, a list of men, a public list of experts where we would see this balance and where the journalists could also reach to. So.
And that's so important. I just want to focus on that a little bit. I think that when women reach high levels of power, they need to pull other women with them. And I think that that's so important. That needs to be an intentionality, really. And, I think that we have to talk the talk and walk the walk. And be very focused on that. It's up to all of us to make sure we're lifting other women to positions of power, because there's enough room for everybody. And so thank you for bringing it up. Any other questions from the audience? Yes. We'll go to the back. Okay, the front first.
I'm not from the World Bank office in Zagreb. Just one additional comment, an endorsement on the whole importance of quota and regulation, so all for it, but also not to take it for granted and to be very aware of how fragile it is, because once we get out of that sphere that is regulated, I think our true nature becomes a bit more apparent. The latest elections showed the regulation at the local level, then in the parties, the quotas, and the list, and then in the parliament. So there we're not doing that badly, but once it came to true power, and we know where it lies, the formation of the coalition and the government, we were all witnesses for 3 or 4 weeks. We watched the TV, there was not one woman involved in making, government formation, putting forward the real issues. It was a blank screen. And then today in the government we have, out of 18 members of government, we have 2 women. So I think until that sort of things becomes extremely difficult to happen in Croatia, I think will not make real progress forward, not even in terms of parity and not even in international terms of real equality.
Can
I also wanted to say something.
Just one thing. Thank you, Anna. It maybe goes a little bit with Jagoda's question already before. As I mentioned earlier, for me, it's kind of easier as women from politics from center-left party. It's really extremely hard for women from the right parties to have their space. I have kind of, I understand them really well, because for them it's extremely hard. Now when you have in the government, the center-right party with the right party, of course you don't have women there. So that's the problem. And when you ask Jagoda about what about the war, the security concerns and questions, so I see the bigger threat for Croatian society is importing all the conservative and if you want even religious, not just values, ideas, but practices. And those are the situations I'm scared of.
You're worried about that?
No, I'm not worried, I'm scared. No, I'm really scared.
If I may add about the quotas and their effects, and okay, they are not being, as we can see, we are not in line with them always. But there is one thing, and I challenge you. Maybe it is debatable. I have a feeling that there was quite some reactions to the establishment of the government cabinet and the fact that there were only 2 women there. And there was quite a lot of coverage in the media of the number of women in the ballot lists. So I do sense, I'm not happy with the level where we are right now, but I have a feeling that this quantitative imposition of the quotas did result, together probably with also the changes in globally, with the idea that our public is aware of the fact that we should have more women in the politics.
And I think, I think that you said it, we need to be talking about women issues throughout the year. It's not only the month of March. I mean, it has to be constant. And the drumbeat that you're doing is so important internally to say, we need that representation. And it needs to be continuous. And we need to chip away at it every day because it needs to be the topic, the theme that we bring up. Because if we're not bringing it up, who will bring it up, right? So thank you for your leadership. Let's go to the back.
Yeah. My name is Ruth. I'm from this socioeconomic position of women groups of another panel. So obviously I have many comments, and I'm not as optimistic as Nadia was.
I'm not optimistic at all.
She's scared.
I'm just fighting.
She's just a vampire.
I don't know if she's scared, so I don't know if she's optimistic.
Okay, I'm focused on 2. What I think is quite misleading in the public discourse is that idea that female participation is sort of accessorized or Paralympics. And way too often we get it that way. Whereas we have the very precise data showing that female participation in the economy, in politics, and media brings huge benefits that are measurable, being it on the economic side like GDP growth or female participation in the labor market and so on. So I don't want to extend that topic. I just want to switch to the idea that way too often we are about patronizing women and we want to help them, whereas they're strong enough and they bring so many good things to the labor market and they bring so many unique skills. And again, many independent media and also academic studies show it. On that line, I want to say that double discrimination issue that Maria pointed out, being a young woman and being a woman, and you could also be have multiple discrimination being from the rural background or being a climate migrant, we're about to face it quite soon. Solving it again on that way isn't appropriate. And when we talk about the elections night, it's again the reflection of the private arena. We mostly have women in supporting roles, feeling like the models at the stage, not talking too much or not talking at all, being waiters, of course, in the same hotel or the restaurant, and also filling the room. So making the numbers and not the substance, whereas they have the substance.
They have the substance, but they don't have a chance to speak. That's the whole game.
I said that I'm not as optimistic.
Could I do this?
In Croatia, because our convergence is way too slow.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really thanking you, Ružica, and you mentioned profit in politics. And I think I also mentioned what you pointed out. We as a society, we gain, there's profit. There's not just societal profit. There's real actual billions of euros, dollars out there if women are included. So yes, they should not be exotic accessories. This topic should not be an exotic accessory to the list of events that you're doing throughout the year. But how do we sell it to the men? By speaking the profit language, not prophet, but also maybe prophet. We speak about the gains because as a society, yeah, we're not fragile. We don't need help. We don't need watering. We just need everyone to realize that everyone is going to gain from equality. And this is the thing we need to achieve through this panel, through all the panels, through whatever we're doing. We need to get everyone on board. And I think profit is a good catchphrase for all sorts of groups and audiences. Why? Because we earn more, because there's more money out there on the market. There's more people doing more diverse jobs. There's now simply profit. As an economist, you will be thinking probably in numbers now, but they are huge. We have calculations, and it's billions of euros per year if more women are included.
And profit in politics is counted in votes.
Yeah,
That's right.
Otherwise, and I'll stop then, we'll have the situation of the supervisory boards. I just heard one of them. The president of one supervisory board said, well, now when we have that EU directive, whose wife is going to jump in?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
don't tell me that.
Well, thank you for sharing. Yes.
It was meant to be a joke, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider it.
Yeah, I don't think it's that funny.
As Maria already called me out, my name is Sonja Kovac. I'm from SDP Croatia. I don't have a question. I actually just have two brief comments. I often like to quote one American public person who often said there is a special place in hell reserved for women who don't help other women.
Our great Madeleine Albright.
And I think that when it comes to, I will just stop at politics. When it comes to political parties, when it comes to politics, I think the strength lies in numbers.
That's right.
It lies in unity. If Maria is talking separately and I'm talking separately, nobody will hear us. Maria won't tell you how we blackmailed, how we threatened our political colleagues. But one of the positions that I have held prior to that meeting that we had was that we as women, we always say something, but we never take action. And they know, oh, they just speak, they won't do anything. It was like a true political message. A real action would be that we stand up and say, no women no quotas, no women on the lists.
That's right.
That would be a real stance that we take, and this is where this solidarity shows. I, unfortunately, am not optimistic, also as Maria, that we still need to reach that level of unity even between women to show that there is a further and bigger cause that we're fighting for except our own personal interests. And that is the fight, that's the bigger picture that we need to have in mind.
Thank you for that. I mean, the importance of solidarity and sticking by other women, I think, is paramount. Absolutely. We'll go to the gentleman in the back.
Krunoslavic smetana, and not to be an exotic accessory to this. I will just put two things for the... Yes, just two things. One thing is that we just have to look at the national TV broadcasters and ask ourselves who the main people in their news programs are. In all three, they are women. So they are creating the situation, the public opinion, choosing the people who will sit in the panels and stuff like that. That's one thing. And the other thing, when we were talking about social democrats, HDZ and the rest, even though social democrats has that feminist flair, the first woman prime minister in the current was from the HDZ, and the first president of the republic was from the HDZ.
And the only.
So, as Andrea said, it's much better to have somebody act like a feminist, not declare himself or herself as a feminist.
But Kruno, to spice up a little bit, why the HDZ let those women held that position? Because it was seen as a lost position and no man wanted to go in.
As the president of Croatia.
Yeah, because who was he on the other side?
I mean,
Well,
could I
go ahead.
just briefly comment on the media? I think no.
Let's ask the other
Yeah,
question.
Okay, Mila from the media.
Yeah. I mean, she has the answer.
She's a journalist.
She's a journalist, exactly.
Andrea can just follow up on that.
Tell me your name.
My name is Mila Moralic. I'm a reporter at N1 Television and the vice president of the Croatian Fulbright Association.
Thank you for being here.
About the media, I know that sometimes you feel frustrated about the way that some of the mainstream media are following the women issues in Croatia, but I don't think you should be. Because there's media and there's media. There's good politicians and there's bad politicians. There's good media and there's bad media. Here you have a representative, one of the best journalists in Croatia, and you have also a lot of journalists like that, and there's, I mean, enough media with that kind of representation that you can follow. It's also a piece of advice. If you are worried about your children watching Otvoreno in the evening and you have all the male politicians, just turn the program off. Put it on some other channel. And
But
don't
it's a
worry
public
about it.
television.
You can't change it. You can just, try to influence it. And as the ambassador said, call it out. Always comment on that. I remember there was a comment about a woman in the, it was in your headquarters for the parliamentary elections. One of the politicians, there was a whole article and there was a whole piece on RTL television about who is that woman in SDP headquarters. And she has a PhD in science. So she had a comment on Facebook that was viewed by, I think, more people. And she said who she is, what kind of school she finished. It was viewed by more people, I think, that ever saw that in the newspapers or whatever. So just in today's world where digital is so much important that in the evening, especially for future voters, look at the case of Nina Skočak at the parliamentary elections. Don't worry so much about the wrong position of some of the media in Croatia.
Thank you.
If I can just comment briefly, I would agree with you, Mila, to a large extent, but I do think it's an issue if it's the public television. I think, yes, I agree with you, in particular that the televisions are no longer shaping the worldview of our young people, but I think it's an issue with the public television.
Right. Any other questions? All right, well, I'm going to ask the last question. So as women leaders, because you are women leaders that people look up to and aspire to be one day, what brings you joy?
No, glass of wine. and look at the sea.
A glass of wine, I'm with you.
What brings
What brings you joy? You know, when you think about, like, what brings me joy, and I'll start, is when I look out and see the women that run the embassy, and they're all women here. That brings me great joy. What brings me great joy is looking back at my trajectory and seeing the women that I helped get to where they are. That brings me great satisfaction, great joy, with a glass of wine. But it's what you leave behind that brings me great joy, and the lives you touch, and the improvements that you see in society because you helped make those improvements. So it's more a philosophical question. The wine is good too, but that's what brings me joy.
Of course. As we have the preferential vote in the elections, for last 2 elections we had in the last month, for both of those I voted for women. I know that at least one of those 2 votes will go disappear because that women haven't had enough chance to be elected. But it really made me happy to give my vote to one of my colleagues. So I think giving the support in try to help And to make some achievement is really what makes me joy. And then I can enjoy my glass of wine. Sorry? No. So to make the change and to see the change. I was, as you have said, I was in parliament before 15 years. Then I have like 9.5 years out of the parliament, and now I'm back. And once in previous terms, when I had like existential crisis, what it means to my life, do I need it? I put a paper and I wrote on the paper, well, what wouldn't be in Croatia if I wasn't a member of the parliament? I put a list, what actually I did. I know it sounds kind of adolescent thing, but I needed to assure myself that it's worthwhile fighting for some things and making the change. So that works really makes me joy.
Well, I haven't spoken much about my previous career as a consultant, and I was an entrepreneur. And I had a small company with 4 other women. We are still close friends. We actually started as colleagues, we became friends, we built a company together. And it was a company that then brought up a lot of young experts in the area of EU funds and local development. And now a lot of us have moved in different directions, such as I have in running this NGO, and another friend is a politician, a very successful one, and some of them are in the business. And it is an amazing feeling that we have supported one another through all of this process and through our careers and in our private lives. And it gives me a sense of achievement that I like to think that I have created a community that keeps on flourishing. And now APR is really the extension of it on a broader scale. It's not business oriented. It's really working for the social good. And on this particular occasion, I have to say I'm very happy to see that we have a mixed group of people in our audience. This is the first time. We've had 2 previous panels, and they were very much dominated by women, and I can tell now that we have managed to get the attention of our male colleagues and friends, and it's really bringing me joy. I have a feeling that we're creating a good community that is truly feminist.
That's wonderful.
In a good way.
Now me.
That's wonderful. Andrea?
What brings me joy, aging brings me joy. The wisdom, the life wisdom that it brings. Really, I'm being honest here because I feel more authentic professionally and in my private life, if you want. And it brings with it a certain dose of courage and being brave. I think for me, it's very important, even if we speak about setting an example, even if you want for younger women, you need to grow into yourself. This is how at least I've felt about my career, my whatever you choose, like, and all aspects of my life. And I think it's up to us more senior ones to bring in this calmness in the discussion, being wise, being reasonable, being brave, and showing to the young ones that we can balance, we can be, taking care of ourselves while thriving in all arenas. So I think probably wisdom brings me joy. And gin tonic.
A gin and tonic. So before I wrap up, so I always do a call to action. So we've heard from these women the importance of mentoring, the importance of helping other women. So I ask all of you in the audience, obviously we will do the same, we lead by example, is to mentor a young woman, to help a young woman, to do what you can to lift other women up, and for the men, help a woman get into the position that she wants to, and have these candid conversations. So important. So thank you to the audience that's here for being here. Thank you to these incredible panelists for leading by example and for your time. And so let's give them another round of applause. Thank you very much.